Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we are doing another subscriber kind of idea video, and this one is going out for Helen and Shalom. We are going to do a eco/resin pour. Now, I have only attempted this once and it was unsuccessful, and the fact that I did it the wrong way. I poured my resin first and not my eco. So hopefully today we'll get it right, and yeah, we'll see. All right, so I'm using YOBTOP eco resin, and I'm just mixing it up. It is a 3 to 10 ratio, so 3 parts of water to 10 parts of powder. And I've kind of done it enough at this point to know like the consistency that it is that I'm looking for. And I'm just gonna kind of mix it until one, I think I have enough, and two, until it's the consistency that I'm looking for, which is kind of just a almost creamy texture. Now, this stuff is on the waterier side of eco pores, of like your eco type stuff. Like, it's definitely not something thick and chunky like Jasmonite or anything like that. It is a thinner consistency when it's mixed how it's supposed to be. I would say kind of like a heavy cream type feel to it, if you kind of know what I'm getting at. All right, so I have these coaster molds. Now, of course, this is one of my deals that started one thing and turned into something else, and I want to do a marbled effect, so I'm just taking some purple pigment, adding a couple drops, and just kind of slightly moving it around, and then we're going to pour it in here. Now, my initial thing was I wanted to do kind of like a home decor thing, but seeing as I made more than what I needed, I decided that we're going to go ahead and do 4 coasters, and then I just had this little mold off to the side, so I'm going to pour the rest in this guy, and we're just going to see what happens. Okay, so because I am doing this as an eco/resin pour, after I'm done banging and moving and squishing and all of the things to get any air bubbles out, I'm going to let this set for 24 hours. I'm not demolding it. All right, so 24 hours later, and this is what we're looking like. Now, I have these really pretty washi stickers that I just got recently, and I am really, really wanting to use them. I think they're gorgeous. They've kind of got like these very bright, vivid flowers and like crowns with jewels, and just very feminine, very, very beautiful. Just, they're gorgeous. So I figured I'd kind of use them. The color tone matches perfectly with what I've got going on already, so I thought it would be cute to do. And I am just kind of gonna pick my stickers out that go with the flowers. I'm gonna kind of arrange them how I think that they will look nice on here, and we're going to start putting them on. Now, spoiler alert, there are a lot of things that I learned along the way in making this. Now, it worked in the sense of it didn't split apart like it did when I tried before. When you're doing the eco resin thing, you want to pour your ecos first, let that cure, and then pour your resin on top. Now, there are a few things that I've learned along the way, and I asked some questions after the fact because I didn't know what it was I did wrong. And April from Dresses and Dragons, or Dragons and Dresses Craftstorium, she told me that when you do this, because you're not taking the actual eco part of it out of the mold, right? And we know that it has water content in it, that you should probably let it set a little longer than you typically would, just to make sure all that water content is out. It's a porous substance, so you're going to have to worry about air bubbles, which I ended up getting some, not a whole lot, but enough that it was very upsetting. And what I should have done at this point was, I should have waited a little bit longer just to make sure that there was no water content left in it. And B, I should have put a very, very thin layer of resin on top of this before actually like filling it, and before doing my stickers, because two things happen. A, I get the bubbles from it being porous, right? So if I put a very small amount, and I'm talking like just enough to barely cover it to work it in, just to have that barrier between the eco resin and your actual, like, what you're going to do with it, it will eliminate any more bubbles from happening. So you can pay attention to that, and you can fix any issues that may come with a thin layer before you're finishing your piece, so that you don't have any issues, right? The second part of that is me applying these stickers. Now, I didn't think about it beforehand because I've never done it before. And what happens is when you pour the resin on top of your eco pour, it actually like absorbs the resin and the color changes. Okay. So the color changed in all of the areas that are negative that don't have any sticker on them, because it's a clear backing. Like, it should have just went away. I shouldn't have been able to see anything but the sticker. But because there was that barrier in between, like where that sticker laid, that plastic between that and the resin didn't get down onto that, my coasters have a discoloration. Now, the discoloration is because it gets darker once the resin hits it. So in the areas where that plastic is from the sticker, it's the color that it is now. So it didn't all change the way it should have all at once to make it look like it's supposed to look. If I hope I'm making sense. You'll understand more when you see the results after I do the resin, what I'm talking about, but I don't want to sit here and tell you right now that I did everything 100% a-okay, it was great, and I had no issues. I did have the issues, and I want to let you know now that this is what I should have done in the order that I should have done it, not in the order of which I did do it, if that makes sense. So wait a little bit longer if it's still in your mold. Put a very thin layer, if you can, to control any bubbles and kind of seal that in so that you don't have an issue before stickers, before any of that nonsense goes on there. Because if I'd have done it after, they all would have been the same color and whatever. Now it looks like I have a sticker because it almost looks like it has a colored backing to it because of the difference in color. Do they still turn out pretty? Absolutely. But not perfect, and it could have been avoided had I known. So I'm letting you guys know so that you don't make the same mistakes that I do. All right, so I'm getting close to being done with these. I've got the one that I'm working on and one more left. And then we're gonna pour our resin and kind of wait and see what happens. I mean, I guess you guys already know what happens, but you know what I mean. I do fight with these backings on these no matter what I do. Like, it is always an issue. It doesn't matter. Okay. So, I'm going to finish this up, and then I'm going to mix up some of my Let's Resin casting resin, and we are going to finish these guys up. And right about now, I am regretting cutting out all of these individual pieces because this is becoming a nightmare. Okay, so we're done. I have my Let's Resin casting resin that I'm using today, and I'm just going to add the tiniest bit of Rolio Pearl White. It's like a super sparkle, just to have some added shimmer throughout the rest of the pieces, just to give it that little extra something something. And I am just lightly mixing it because I don't want to incorporate any bubbles or anything like that into it. And then we're just going to fill these guys up. Now, this is where, and I did notice, and it's on me too because I should have paid more attention to them as it was sitting in the mold. I did notice that around the edges in particular, there was a lot of bubbles coming up, and I typically don't have an issue with bubbles. especially not with this resin. And if you've seen it before, like there were no bubbles in it at all when I was pouring, because I've been really good lately. And as much as possible, I use my ISTOYO mixer with the AI thing on it so I don't have to, do bad things like mix it up super fast. But I did notice that there's a lot of air bubbles coming up, and I kind of thought at the time that maybe that was going to be an issue, but not enough, I guess, to worry about it. So I did go around and I got up the bubbles that I seen. And then I'm just going to fill these up to kind of like a domed height because I want to make sure that I don't have to, do any trimming or cutting. And I hate using the deburring tools, so I don't have to do that if I don't have to. And at this point, I notice more bubbles. Now you can already see, if you look at them now, you can see that lightness, that discoloration where the stickers are. You can already see it. I didn't pay any mind to it because I didn't think really anything of it when I was pouring it, and it didn't really dawn on me until later. All right, so rest of the resin in, and this was perfect. Like I actually made up enough resin for all of these things without having any left over. I was so impressed with myself. I never do that. I always go either one way or the other. Either I'm making too much or I don't make enough and I have to make more. All right, so here's the bubbles. Do you see? It's like little groupings of them. Mainly just on the two pieces, and then the bottom of this one, which is no big deal. It's the bottom and it's just one huge bubble. That's fixable, but these ones are going to be a little bit harder. Now, ideally, if time was not an issue, which it always is an issue, I would kind of cut them out like I'm doing now, and I'm taking my craft blade because there's so many clustered up. It's not ideal to just pop a hole in one of them, and I'm kind of almost scraping them out to get rid of them, and then I'm going to refill them. Now, I'm going to use UV resin. I, however, do not recommend doing it, especially if this is going to be a piece that you're finishing for somebody. If I was to do it and time was not an issue, I would mix up two-part, honestly, and I would fill it with that. Make sure, take a toothpick, go around to make sure you have all of those little crevices and everything done up right, and then probably just go ahead and top coat it. Just do a whole nother top coat, or you could do a flood coat if you wanted to. That's what I would do. I think that honestly, that's the best scenario to do. Can you use UV resin? Yes, but I have never been able to do it to where it's flush. Like it'll be either there's too much or it, goes down. It's never just flush that it totally disappears unless you actually take the time to do it with the two-part. Have some of you been able to do it? I'm sure you can. Not this girl. So I personally, especially if you're going to use it as a coaster, because I don't feel like UV resin is has the high enough heat resistancy on it. I could be mistaken, but I don't think that it does. So I would definitely use a two-part to do it, and it just looks better. All right, so we've got them all filled, cured them up. I used my ISTOYO UV resin to fill the holes and the Let's Resin Dual Light to cure it. 5 minutes under, it's good. Now let's demold these. Now, this little guy right here turns out really cool. But when I was looking at it before I put the resin in there, it was weird how the eco resin kind of how it set, because it went down to the bottom like it should, and then there was some that was covering like that little round part, which would be the bottom inside piece, and it kind of just stayed there and cured there. But when I poured the resin on, so it seemed like I should have had a show. When I poured the resin on, the resin actually got up underneath of it, and it's still there, but it's got like this weird cloudy kind of purpley look to it. It's really cool. I like it a lot. I actually, it's my favorite one out of everything that I did, and it was just the leftovers piece, which is funny how that works out. Here they are, though. They are pretty. I think that the discoloration takes a lot away from it because it just, it's an eyesore, in my opinion. It pulls your eye. Instead of looking at the flowers or the jewels, the crowns, whatever, it pulls your eye to that whiteness. And that's where this project is a fail because of that, because it looks like a sticker. It looks like it shouldn't be there. It just, it's sad too, because I think that these would be really, really pretty had I did it the right way. Am I gonna try something like this again? Absolutely, because I like it. And I like the weight to them too. So, because the eco type resin is a lot heavier, I feel like it feels more of a quality product than just resin. Resin typically, unless you're pouring a lot, isn't super heavy, and the coasters that you make with them are pretty light, which is fine. There's nothing against that, but I kind of like the weight and the feel to these more, and it's very tactile, and I like the feeling of the smoothness of it and all of that. So I don't know. I kind of like the half and half mix. I like to the bottom with the eco, and then the top I can still do the things that I want to do and have the weight to it. So I think it's a pretty cool combination. All right, let's talk about sealing this. Now, because I'm probably going to use them as coasters just for here, because they are pretty. They're just not what I wanted. I do want to seal them. Now, of course, me being me, I bought sealer. I've had sealer. I've had it for months now. I just haven't had the time or the project that I actually needed it. And I've known exactly where it was until this day. And I need it, and now it has disappeared and gone to hide, and I do not know the location of it. And I searched for it, so I don't know where it's at. But I'm just going to use gloss varnish because in theory, it should seal it, and I am going to do 2 coats. Would I recommend it? No. It leaves brush strokes, and it's just, it's not something I would recommend. I did it because I know that it needs to be sealed with something, and I don't know where my sealer went to, so I guess eventually I'll get to try it out in a future video, but today is not the day. Anyway, guys, that is a wrap on this one. Like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. And I will catch you guys on Tuesday in the next one. Love ya. Bye.